This interview is for the Neighborhoods of Newport, part of the oral history project of the Newport, Rhode Island Historical Society. The interviewer is Jocelyn Birdsall, the narrator is Aline Leys, and this interview is taking place at Mrs. Leys' home, 228 Gibbs Avenue, Newport, on January 16, 1984. You mentioned Saturday that you were born in Fort Hamilton, New York. Your father then was an Army man.
West Point.
Graduated from West Point?
Oh, yes.
Had he grown up in a military family, or was he the first one?
His father was a minister.
A minister. So there wasn't a military tradition?
No.
What denomination?
A Congregationalist, I think he was.
Minister. Mm-hmm. Then from West Point, he went to Fort Hamilton.
Yes.
That was his first
He's
assignment.
born in Wales. It came from Wales. That was why.
Mm-hmm.
I had no family over here.
Over here, so that was interesting. And then, how did he happen to get interested in a military career?
I don't know. Every town they give certain appointments, and he just happened to get an appointment in that town. I don't know who appointed him. Usually the senator or somebody from the state. He was out in Iowa, and he was appointed from Iowa.
From Iowa. Did you have a large family, lots of brothers and sisters?
Only child.
You were the only child, and you had the whole military base to wait on you, hand and foot. Did the Army provide household help or services or things?
Well, you get your.
Did you
get your own
got
help
your own.
Because you get your house and they don't give you any furniture or anything much, but you get the house and commissary to buy things from. Usually have a soldier that you hire to help with the furnace or something,
The heavier. But as far as a cook or a maid, that sort of thing, you hired your own household help. Then when you were born, were you born at an Army hospital, or was it
I think at home in those days. At home.
Born at home. And then a local regular nurse, or?
I don't know. I don't think I ever had a birth certificate. I don't think they even registered me down there.
You don't exist, in other words.
I don't exist.
You just don't exist. Well, then how old were you when you moved to Newport?
First time I was about high school age, 15 or so.
So you went to high school here?
Mostly, yes. I'd started high school and always traveled around, and then we came here. He retired, and then of course, after high school, it was the first war, and I went back. We went back in the service.
I guess Army children and Navy children too, of course, do get used to going to lots of different schools.
Yes.
You travel a lot. Did you have any particular feelings about which schools were better, or one where you were particularly happy, or?
No, because sometimes I had a governess at home, because like over at Fort Greville, Mother didn't want me to take all those ferries over there in Jamestown, Newport, so I had a governess at home, one of the sergeants or soldiers' wife who'd been a teacher.
At Fort Greville, didn't have then any facilities of that sort. You had to come to the mainland to school.
Yeah.
You came to the mainland to church.
Yes.
You told me that you had to get ride on a mule to the ferry or something.
Well, we had our mule team across Jamestown.
Oh.
And then then we took the ferry to Newport. In the summer, there was usually churches in Jamestown, but not in the winter. Not in the winter.
And was it that Congregational church then down on Pelham that you went to?
No, I'm a Catholic.
Oh.
My mother is French, and I'm a Catholic. My grandfather was still a minister.
Well, you have had an ecumenical background then. And your husband, was your husband then a Catholic?
No, he was Presbyterian. We're all mixed up.
You sound like my family. Well, did you have any particular problems or pleasures with all that varied religious background at home? Any emphasis, anything special from,
No,
just
everything was
Welsh music? Are you particular any Welsh singing voices in your family?
No, nobody seemed to sing. It's my mother up picture up there. She was very beautiful. But I look like my father.
Oh, I thought that was you when I came in Saturday.
I don't look like her. I look like my father.
Then were you living in Newport when you were married?
Yeah. We came back after the first war, about a year or so, and I was married here.
Was there any strong feeling in your family about who you should marry or who would be suitable for the only daughter in the family to
Well,
marry?
I think Mother was hoping I'd get in the Army again or Navy. I had a lot of Navy friends here. But
she was happy as an Army wife.
Yeah, well, she traveled around. She's a New Yorker. I don't know if it suited her too well, but she always adjusted.
You didn't feel any particular pressures as...
No, I loved the Army. I loved it. I hated to leave.
to leave it. So you didn't feel that the family pattern would really determine that you should marry a certain type of person or a certain...
No, I think she'd been pleased to have me in the Army, but...
So then you were married in Newport, and your husband started the Leys store?
His father, of course, it belonged to the old Sherman family. That's why it's called the Century Store. The Sherman family founded it years ago in the 1700s. And then it's kept right along with some of the Shermans in it. So now it's there's still Mr. Sherman connected with the store. He has stock in it and all that. But when the store it was an old store on Thames Street, and then when they built the bigger store, a group got together. It was Dr. Sullivan and Mr. Sherman and Mr. Meikle. There was 5 or 6 men, and they got Mr. Leys, who had been come over from Scotland and was with the Boston store, and they got him to come and manage the store for them. So his Leys family, but they still sock Mr. McLennan and all. They were put, helped start it. So they still have interest in it and have, dividends. I hope I get some dividends too. And because we had the biggest stock in our family. So then, Mr. Leys, now when he got ill, my husband's the oldest son, he had to get in the business whether he wanted to or not. I don't think he would have chosen it. He liked electrical engineering or something like that, but he had to, and he had 2 brothers, and they were in with him too.
So there was a certain amount of family pressure that the oldest son...
Yes, well, there was no one else to help with the business at that time when he was taken ill.
And how about your own children? Were they eager to take over the store?
As my husband said, he never wanted to pressure the boys to do it. If they wanted to, all right. If they didn't, all right. So when they came out of college, they both went to Brown. They went in the store for a while, and then my oldest son was offered the redevelopment. He's an executive secretary of the redevelopment. So he took that, and my youngest son, David, is still managing the store with his cousin, who is the son of my husband's brother, Bradford.
And did you have a daughter, too?
I have a daughter.
You have a daughter?
Yes.
So there are 3 children?
Yeah.
And does she live in Newport now, too?
No, she lives in Virginia, down in Radford. She works in a library down there since her husband died. And most of her children went to the University of Virginia. One went to Rutgers, and luckily she got them all out of college somehow.
Well, she did a good job to raise 5 children
I think
all by
of course
herself.
they were quite grown. At least the oldest was in college, but the others hadn't gotten it.
And the 2 boys live in Newport. How many children do they have?
Oh, David's got 7.
Really?
5 boys. I said they ought to be another Leys going in the store. Because
out of 7, they're bound to be somebody.
And Bill has 3. The youngest one is only 10. He was a little surprised, but he's...
Well, he has time yet to make up his mind what he wants to do.
Yes. So
Did you move here right away? This house?
yes, we built this house.
You built it?
Just
Oh,
yeah,
well.
just when we were married, we built it, so we moved in almost right off.
Well, it's pretty much then the way you wanted it. You didn't buy
Yeah,
a house
well,
just
I don't
because
know.
it
I
was
think when you just get married, you don't know what you want. I have a lot of things I wouldn't have. I said I would advise anybody to wait about a year after they're married, and then they'll know what they want in the house.
Well, maybe, but maybe it would change
Yeah.
too this
Yeah.
time.
I would have had it a little certain things different.
Have you remodeled it at all since you've been here to change it?
No, not really. We were going to put heat on the porch. We have a big porch. And I live out there practically in the summer, but it has no heat. And we were just about thinking of putting in a basement and heat out there when the war came, and of course it kind of settled things.
You have, can you see the reservoir from here?
Well, yeah, you could. When we moved down here, that was all open land, and you could see right to the pond. People were always calling up and asking me if they were skating on the pond, because you could see it. But of course, all the building, they don't see it much now.
Did the children skate here? Did they play generally in the neighborhood without all these houses around? It probably was a lot more open than it is now.
Oh, yes, there was always some around here. I remember we first moved down here, it's all open, and an old woman had a cow down there, was mooing fast in the field, because we didn't own that back lot then, so we bought this back lot down to the next street, which costs a lot to keep up now, taxes too.
Yes, it's undeveloped, so
Yeah.
it's still a vacant lot.
Yes, well, we had a nice garden there. I haven't kept it up too well, but
Were there a lot of children around the neighborhood for your children
well,
to
there
play
were
with?
always some of them, Clennons across the street, and the different ones around up the street and down, boys that played together, and my daughter, of course, in high school, when they got to high school, they had friends all over.
Was it sort of a homogeneous neighborhood? Were most of the people young, married with children about the same age, or was it quite different?
No, it was about this. I guess it was about the same age. Of course, it's Navy sometimes rented houses come and go, people that we knew. There were quite a few Navy.
I had a feeling that it was an area that quite a few Navy people.
Yes, because when I was in high
into.
school, of course, I was very friendly with a lot of Navy girls and all. We went to the dances together and all.
Where did your children go to school?
Rogers.
They
They went to Rogers and then they went to Brown. My daughter went to Wellesley for 2 years and then she transferred to Pembroke. Because the war came and it's hard getting up there.
back in yes. Have you noticed change in the sort of general character of the neighborhood? Is it more homogeneous? Is it more scattered, more diverse?
Well, I don't know. They saw so many people that you know died, and they changed. Because my mother, they had second house from us there. My mother and father, they moved there after we moved from Pell Street, and of course they've gone. And it's changed like that. There's been a lot of people that have bought houses, and people that have died and changed.
Are there very many families who have been here as long as you have, or does it seem to be a pretty transient neighborhood?
Yes, well, some ones that I have knew so well have all gone or moved or something. The calls across the street here have been there about 20-some years, I guess. And old Mrs. Weaver died last year, and she was here when I moved down. And the Blivens next door were here, and they died, except one of their children. Everybody.
It does happen.
Yeah.
When your children were growing up, did you have any particular neighborhood problems, a very difficult person to get along who was nosy and critical, or were they generally pretty
No,
good?
we had pretty. Of course, boys were always getting into themselves in touch with someone, but they were. I never fighting with anybody. We have a difficult one up the street, but it's very nice to me.
Yeah.
I have no complaints.
Are there condominiums coming in here now, or have many of the people made apartments in their houses?
Well,
Are they
further
still-
down Gibbs Avenue, that way, some of the bigger houses are being made into apartments, have been apartments. I think some of them are condominiums now. Houses that I knew people had just for one person. Now, Miss McCagg had a house down there, and she said she was going to leave in her will that wanted the house sold to a single family. She didn't want it made into apartments. Well, of course, it's all torn to pieces now. I don't know what they're doing to it now, but they're making it into all kind of things. So she wouldn't have liked that.
Condominiums certainly have
Yes.
become the name of the game
Yes,
here.
well, I know that some people, don't want them. I know there's apartments down the corner of Old Beach Road, and Mrs. Adelson, Dr. Adelson's widow, lived there for some years. She liked it, but they wanted her to buy the condominium. She didn't do it. She moved.
It's going to be hard for a lot of people. I
Yes, you
think.
can't afford it.
You just don't want to put that much
Yes.
money into buying a condominium. When your children were growing up, when you were living here, were most of the mothers at home, or had they begun to work outside, part-time
I
jobs?
think
and
most
things
of them were at
outside?
home that I know.
That hadn't really begun yet
No.
with mothers.
No, most of them are cleanliness and different people. None of them worked. My sister-in-laws and all, they didn't. None of them worked.
The children walked to school all together?
Oh,
Did
yes.
They all
I never thought of buses or anything.
they all went to the same school pretty much? Or did your children go to the Catholic school?
No, we won't. We see when they just went to. Where did they go? They went to Rogers, and they went to. Oh, they went to Miss Collins' school on Rhode Island Avenue. She came from England. She had a little private school there, and they all went to Miss Collins until they got to high school age. That was on Rhode Island Avenue. It's a small school. The young Vanderbilt girl went there, and a lot of them. I remember Patty Vanderbilt, very friendly with Jean, and they used to go. She used to go out there to tea and all. Of course, the chauffeur always came and was very fussy about getting Patty out of the school. They were protected her a lot, and it was a nice little school. And so then they went right from there to Rogers.
That school, I guess, isn't there anymore.
No, she died, and nobody took over apparently. But
There wasn't the feeling, though, that the public schools weren't really as good as the private schools?
no, I don't know that. I don't know how we got into Miss Collins' school. Of course, you always think be careful of the children when they start out. I'd never been to a regular public school until I went to Rogers. I'd never been to an elementary school. I didn't know much about how it was. So when Miss Collins started the school, why, they all went there. They didn't go to kindergarten, but Miss Collins was a wonderful teacher, and she would start them in the first grade about right off. Seems to me they never didn't have a kindergarten, but she got them to learn. She's wonderful.
No feeling that you shouldn't expect too much of children, that you shouldn't really push them, or you shouldn't really challenge them. Everything sort of aimed with the slowest in the class.
No, they were good pupils. Jean never had any trouble. When she went to high school, honor roll and all that. But I never pushed them.
Did they feel sort of any romantic feeling about their Army background?
No, I was kind of hoping the boys would be interested in the Army, but it didn't seem to be. They weren't at all interested.
No romantic stories about this adventure or that adventure as told as bedtime stories.
I don't think so. I have one grandson in the military school now. I don't know whether he's going to continue.
It's interesting. Some children, even with a important family tradition, just are individuals. They
Yes.
don't get caught up in it.
Yes, yeah. I was always taught my father was disappointed I wasn't a boy and could carry it on. He had nephews that went in, but he had one nephew that he didn't get out.
So, by now, girls can be in the Army.
Yeah, I can't believe that my father would have a fit. But the
You
whole army has changed.
He wouldn't have thought it was a good idea to have.
I don't think so. No. I don't know. Army has changed, so the war came, and the girls would know a private or something, and of course nowadays you're in associate with the privates or anything, It was terrible.
Was there any of that feeling when you were growing up here, when your children were growing up here, that the summer colony neighborhood was maybe a little disadvantaged and that they didn't play with each other?
Well, they certainly didn't play with anyone down the avenue. Couldn't afford it. We had one family, Colonel Willard, and his mother, 3 daughters, and she was very ambitious. And they went down the avenue and they got into the casino and everything, but ordinary Army people couldn't afford it.
And they didn't feel particularly left out? Or
No, never mentioned them.
Never mentioned. Just pleased enough with their own traditions.
Yes,
so
we all, I don't know, they all had their own friends, and I see most of the young Navy here too. My daughter and son, they know the young Navy crowd a lot here, but that didn't, so they don't go down the avenue. That was different. But this Willard family didn't. And finally, the oldest daughter married Mr. Collette, and Sal Regina College was her home there. Mother went to lunch with her there once, I remember, because Mrs. Willard and my mother were great friends, but the girls were well, I was friendly with them. I was friendly with one of them, and I'd go to Army dances, they'd be there or something, but they were always trotting down the avenue.
There are some big houses down here at the end. So when those were single-family houses, was there any feeling that those people were a little bit better maybe, or a little bit untouchable from the other people whose houses weren't maybe quite so big?
I don't think so. I don't remember any young people down that way much. Where the school is there now, was 2 old ladies lived there. Miss Masons lived there. And the house on the very end, I think it was some man that left it to his butler. I don't remember the name. He's the one that had all the birdhouses down there. But I don't remember what his name was. But he left it to him, so I don't know that. And in the Gibbs house was along there, Mrs. Gibbs. I know. And that all this land where my house is, and all this was the Gibbs property. That's how it got the name of Gibbs Avenue, from the Gibbs family that lived down there.
And which house was that?
Now that was it was the second or third from the end there.
From Memorial Drive.
Yeah.
There used to be a trolley, wasn't there, that went down Memorial Drive to the beach? Or was that
yes.
before you
No,
came?
There was a trolley went down there. Because
How
I always walked to the beach when we came here from first. We lived on Everett Street, the end of it. We always walked to Newport Beach because nobody had the cars. I wish I had a nickel for every time I went up that hill.
Was it a different mood from the summer resort colony when there were people, when their trolleys went to the beach and the big hotel was up here and everybody was coming in to go to the beach, did it make any difference in the general feeling of the neighborhood? I mean, we live here now. I'm never aware of the beach really, unless I'm driving past it.
No.
I wonder if it made a neighborhood influence.
No, all of us, all the kids and all went to the beach. That's all. That was the beach. We didn't dare. Now we go with the hazards, of course, once we got a car. But we just walked to the beach. Never thought of anything else.
It didn't seem a particularly different mood. When
No, because Bailey's Beach and all were out of the question. They were too far away. Couldn't have got in. So we never thought about it.
Was it cleaner? Was it better maintained now?
It was pretty dirty. I can remember the bugs.
So it's not as bad now as people talk about the good old days. Maybe they weren't all that much better.
Yes, well, all that red seaweed seems to me we always had it.
Always had it.
Yes.
You listen to some people
There were
talk, it's
bugs.
brand new.
Oh, the bugs in the seaweed, I can remember.
It didn't have anything to do with the Republicans or the Democrats.
No, I don't think so. We always had the red seaweed ever since I've been down there. Because sometimes it's worse than others, and sometimes it was clean. And of course, we had a bathhouse down there. Sometimes 2 or 3 girls would have it together, you see. $15 a year.
$15 a year?
Yeah.
That sounds like it might have been quite a lot of money then.
It was, yeah. That's what I think it was maybe $30 or something when we paid 15 apiece.
How did you feel about the town government, and sort of as far as your local neighborhood was concerned? Did you feel as if they were much more interested in downtown or the...
Well, of course, we were in business. When I was growing up, I don't know, downtown. It was just, the young people, we all went downtown. That was where we did our shopping and everything. Of course, when the old Mr. Leys started the store there, of course, I was still in school. I didn't know the family or anything. But everybody went downtown, especially Saturday. Well, Saturday nights they were open then. And so a lot of people would go downtown Saturday nights because people were around.
There's sort of like people come in from the country.
I think so, probably they did, yeah.
Town Saturday night.
Saturday night was a big night.
Have dinner downtown.
I know there wasn't any places to have dinner. I don't know.
Ate at home.
Yeah. All these places that are downtown now are such a change. You can go here and there. Well, even my husband was living. We could go to the Viking to dinner, or we could go to on the boulevard there. What's that place there? Go there to dinner, or a couple of little places maybe, but that was all. We'd go out to the lobster pot or something like that, out a little ways off, but we could ride up to Lunch Street, to the Toll House, or to one of those places out there. But around town, there really wasn't too many places.
There wasn't this sort of general summer tourist.
There wasn't so much of the tourists. I think people came here. Of course, when we had the races and things, it came and there was a lot of people here. But way back there wasn't so much talk of tourism. They'd go down and people would come and look at the places down the avenue. People lived in them. You see a big ball down there and people would ride down to look at the decorations and things like that. But of course, there were homes, summer cottages.
So there are summer cottages, yes. But there wasn't a feeling of maybe going down and looking at all the people going into a ball.
Well, I think perhaps some people did. I don't know. Some people I think people did probably go down and watch what was going on. But we never thought about that.
Basically, it was another world.
It was really the Army-Navy group here was sort of together quite a lot.
There wasn't friction.
I don't think so.
Service personnel was one congenial group.
No. Well, like when I went to school, we had all the Navy girls, and we all went out together with the Newport kids. But then there were Navy dances, and there were just certain ones that were asked, Army, Navy, mostly. Of course, some Newport girls that were known usually had if there was a dance at the War College, then they probably had a list of girls that they thought suitable to ask. Because I know friends of mine, the K girls, their father's a doctor here. They both married in the Army. And we always went to dances together. We'd go to War College. We'd go. Fort Adams had dances over there. They had down at the foot of the, where the boat came in there, we had administration building there.
Okay, you were saying that when the town got so crowded with the jazz festival, they couldn't get the fire out, engines?
That was a tourist street one particularly.
So then the fire engines came over here.
Well, one of the fives came here in the yard.
And stayed in your yard.
Yeah.
And so they could get out if the fire whistle blanked.
Yes, because this wasn't so, crowded neighborhood traffic.
And the tapper, how did they get the signal? Did they have a telephone?
No, and we had a tapper in the kitchen. It's an electrical thing from the headquarters.
Oh.
My husband was a called fireman. And so they have this thing there. He used to have, when it went off in the fire station, it went off here.
Oh, I never really understood how that worked.
Yes,
before the telephone, how the signal got
They didn't
delivered.
take, I don't know how they had electrical signals there, from the different boxes would come into firehouse. And if they sounded an alarm for box so-and-so, it would strike here because at the same time it struck in the headquarters.
That's interesting. So then, of course, all the children would come around and look at the fire
Yes,
engine.
well, of course, we had more fires then, it seems to me, at night. Especially in the wintertime, we had big fires at night. My husband, of course, would dash out, put on his jump pants, and off he'd go in the middle of the night.
I wonder if it was furnaces or
What?
furnaces that keeping them going all night, not as reliable as our oil burners. Why would there have been fires at night?
I don't know why it is, whether more had coal fires or whether they had wooden roofs more or something. I don't know why, but they seem to be. He was always running out in the night, seems to be.
Did you ever take people in? Did you have to get up and make coffee for the firemen?
No, but I went out with the Red Cross a number of times. They sent me here. I came right home at 5 o'clock in the morning. The police car. That didn't look very good. But we'd go out. And my husband would be at the fire and come up and say, "What are you doing here?" And I'd leave after he would. The Red Cross would call me maybe if I was on some kind of committee. And we'd go and serve coffee at these fires. I don't seem to do that anymore.
The firemen must get just as cold
They
as
must
they
be,
did
yeah,
then.
but I don't know. But I know that it's sent for me and I go out. My husband leave me here in bed and then he'd go out, cup of coffee and there I was.
And there you would be at the fire along with it.
Yeah. But,
I have never heard of that before. I think that's wonderful. I know that this summer they moved one of the rescue wagons down off Thames Street because they couldn't get to that end of town through all the traffic.
Yeah.
But I have never heard of putting a fire engine in somebody's private home so they could get out to a
well,
fire.
of course, he was a fireman. He was a callman. He knew a lot of firemen, and even he and the chief used to go off sometimes to Fall River fires. If there was a big fire in Fall River, the chief would call him up, "Want to go, Bill?" And then they'd go off.
Did the Newport fire engines go to Fall River?
Oh, yeah. If there was a very big fire, they did. But they'd go up just to look at it if they. But very often they called on Newport. I think when they had those big fires in the mills out there and things, they had a number.
Big wooden factory
big
buildings.
wooden buildings. I guess that was it.
Were you very active in the Red Cross?
Well, quite, yes, during the war. particularly. Of course, I used to take people in my car around for doctor's appointments and things like that. And then during the war, we used to serve lunches at the Red Cross for the people that were working and making all kind of things, for medical things. So we'd have charge. For instance, I'd have it 1 week, and I had to plan every lunch. And I had to go out and buy all the stuff and lug it back, because we had certain stores that the Red Cross charged to. And then we had so many of us each day would make the lunch. We had a main dish and a dessert and coffee and things, and 50 cents.
You couldn't buy that much of a lunch for 50 cents now,
No,
I guess.
We'd have something hot, and spaghetti and meatballs or something, and we'd have a dessert. Sometimes if I was in charge, I'd make, say, Jell-O or something at home, because then it would take time and take it over with me. It was an awful job to think of what to get and what to do.
Did you serve those meals every day?
Yeah. One would have it 1 week in charge and some another charge. And then the same ones would go and work.
Has the Red Cross always been a pretty good organization here?
I think so, yes. There's a friend of mine who was one of the head women down there for years. And everybody did something. I was always out collecting something. I was either collecting for the Red Cross or the community chest or something, ringing doorbells. I hated it. I was glad when I could say I was too old. So.
Was the neighborhood very civic-minded generally, do you think, or did you have to really work to get them involved in
when I would go around the neighborhood, everybody seemed very nice about it. They all contributed to certain things. I think the Red Cross was very popular. But of course, during the war, they did more work. But it was before the war that I used to go out and take people around and, sign you up and call you up. They want somebody to go to the doctors or something.
Drive various people.
Sometimes I wouldn't do it. Sometimes people were kind of dirty, and I wouldn't want my children getting in the car
after they had ridden.
No.
How did you feel generally about the town government? Was the neighborhood very active in going to the council meetings, or did you feel that was a different world?
Well, I was never too active in anything like that. My husband was, of course, quite interested in anything in the town, but I was never a politician or anything like that. Had certain people that we knew that. Excuse me.
I think all we really need to chat about now is how you feel about Newport today as the way it generally was. Do you think it's better, worse, gone to the dogs?
Well, I think it's better. It's had all this tourist business and everything like that. Of course, I can remember back in school days, and it was nice and quieter the way it used to be. But of course, there was a lot of Navy. There was often trouble with sailors around and things like that, but there were more sailors. But of course, a lot of people that lived here a long while, I think, feel that it was kind of nice and be quiet. But we didn't have the races then. Of course, when we started having the jazz festival, that kind of jazzed things up a bit. But before that, I think it was quiet, as I say, Saturday night downtown and, things, of course. I'm not a great mixer. I don't join things much or anything like that. And
have you ever sort of wished that you had grown up someplace else, or have you been generally pretty happy that you've grown up here in Newport?
I've liked Newport. I think I can remember we were down in Virginia. My father was a commandant at the VMI, and I remember when we got the orders to Newport, asked him what sort of place it was. So that's when we first came here to Fort Adams. So we've stuck around here ever since, but as I say, we have no home to go back to or anything. My mother came to New York, but most of her family had gone. My father, of course, family. I never saw them much.
From Wales, you didn't go back and forth a lot?
No, they never went back, and he had his sisters here, and his aunts. I'd see them once in a while, but they lived out west, and he didn't feel it was any home. They were married, and no particular home.
So your family really has always been centered here?
For a good many years, since before the first war.
Your sons and your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, except for your daughter's family, they're here.
Yes, my daughter, of course, her husband was with the Standard Oil engineer, and they traveled quite a bit. She went to Ireland and Norway and all like that, and they lived around quite a lot. But then they lived in New Jersey quite a bit, so they weren't too far. But then when they went to Virginia, he died down there. She had a big house and the children, friends and all. She stayed there. I was hoping they'd come here, but she didn't. So, you missed your daughter, let me tell you.
I think so.
Boys don't think of things. It's nice to have nice daughters-in-law and all, but you missed a daughter.
Well, the saying is, son is a son till he takes a wife, and a daughter's a daughter all of her life.
I think that's very true.
It's true.
I mean, the little things, now, Julie was sweet to come in to shop and all, but I'd hate, I knew she had her own mother and all, to ask her to go and do a lot of things for me, but still I knew if I had to, they'd do it. But with your daughter, you just say, come in and do this and that.
Well, thank you very much. This has been fun. I think it's been very interesting.
Well, I enjoyed talking to you, but I don't know if I've been much.
You were saying when the tape ran out how much fun you used to have going out to the Navy base roller skating parties.
Yes.
Was that chiefly just the Navy families? Or?
Well, I think it was just the Navy and Army and the friends, that they invited. They had to be invited to go over there. So it was always a group that I knew. We all went over, and there was some other Newport girls that we used to go to dances together, and they went with us.
Did it take anything special for the civilian families to get on these Navy invitation lists?
Well, I think in a way, yes. I mean, you had to be invited. I think you had to know some Navy or something like that. In dances, I know, like my mother and some Army and Navy, they would suggest girls' names, and they would be on the list if they weren't on the list. They didn't get invited.
Forget it. It was a whole different world from, for instance, the Avenue mansions.
Oh yes, entirely. And nobody, Army, Navy, haven't got that much money.
Well, and you wouldn't want to. You wouldn't need to. You had your own tradition. You had your own group of prestige
I say
and
there's one
belonging to.
Army family that I knew that daughters did go down the Avenue, but they didn't go there all the time. They went with us.
When you went roller skating, was this an indoor rink?
Oh yes, great big hall, and they had music, and it's one of the big drill halls called Barracks B. I think it's been taken down since then. It's way on the other side of the island. And we were 2 or 3 hours there. We had skating once a week.
Skating isn't as brand new as some people think it is then, with indoor rinks and music and the whole social. It's fun.
Yes, it's lots of fun. We were all herring around there. That was quite the thing of the week to do.
It was one day a week that you'd go out there?
Yes, we had a certain day. I don't remember which one. But it was quite the thing to do to go there.
And get invited to
But
go
I mean, it was
along.
quite a way to get there because you had to go downtown and get the trolley. You couldn't go over. There was no Connell Highway or through to the base there. You couldn't get there that way. You had to go all the way downtown and come up in the trolley.
And then the trolley went right into the base?
Well, it went to the entrance there where they have a guard and so forth. So just as you go into the walk-house, then you had to walk.
And when you were young and athletic, you could walk and you could skate, and then you could walk that far home.
We put the skates on and go around on the path sometimes. It's nice outdoors.
Sometimes that's more fun than round and around inside.
Yes, if it was a nice day, we just go tooting along on the sidewalk.
You know, I admire the current version of that, the boys on their skateboards. Some of them are gorgeous.
Aren't
They
wonderful?
just do beautiful things, and they look so nice. They're so graceful.
I have my grandson is out in Middletown, love to do it, and they have sort of a slide thing, you know. He'll go up that thing and turn around and come down. I don't know how he does it. I thought he'd come on his head.
Does it scare you to watch him?
Yes, it's a huge slide.
It would scare me, no matter how skillful they are. And you can watch them and know they're skillful.
Yeah.
But even so, it makes you nervous to
then
watch
I thought,
them.
oh heavens, he's going to break his neck doing that. Seemed to come out all right.
Seem to get all right. Well, most of them do land on their feet. This is the second interview with Mrs. Leys for the Neighborhoods of Newport Oral History Project of the Newport, Rhode Island Historical Society. The interviewer is Jocelyn Birdsell, and this interview is taking place at Mrs. Leys' home, 228 Gibbs Avenue, Newport, on January 18th, 1984. Today, we will discuss some specific historic events and what Mrs. Leys feels might have been their importance for the neighborhood and the city. You mentioned that you weren't here during World War I, that you went back into the Army, and that you really didn't come back to Newport until after the war.
We came back for part of it when there was, or when it was starting, when there was so many college boys came here, you know, that joined and things. All the girls had a beautiful time because all these boys from different colleges came here to
they
join.
Were much more interesting in their uniforms than they were as just college students.
You know, they'd have dances for them and things like that. That was before, I guess, I went away. And I was away until it was over.
Well, the next thing then, I guess, that we would be interested in talking about is Prohibition. How did you feel about that? Did you think basically it was a good thing or not?
Well, I don't know. Of course, those days I think girls didn't go out to cocktail parties and drink and things. We had thé dansants and things like that. So I wasn't particularly interested, I don't think. I think I thought it was awful when I saw the sailors or any of them drunk, but I thought, you know, people wanted to drink, it was all right. I think there was a lot of hijacking out here, and, you know, our boats you read about and all, it was sort of exciting.
Did you ever see any of them? Any of the rum runner boats?
I don't remember seeing any. It just didn't touch me too much, I don't think.
You didn't go down to the beach then and pick up casks of liquor that had been dumped over the side?
I heard of them too. As I say, you didn't think of having a drink before dinner or something. Then the girls, women didn't do it so much.
Then you didn't have any particular feeling about whether the gangsters had moved into Newport and had made it dangerous?
Alarmed if I thought there was anything like that, but when you're younger, you don't sort of think too much about that, I don't think.
Well, Prohibition evidently was. Did you know anybody in the neighborhood who was making homebrew in their houses?
No, I don't think so. Some of them might have gotten some beer somewheres and all, but I don't remember them. I don't think anybody that I knew well was that much interested to do it at home.
just wasn't a situation that affected you very much. You did say that I think you went on your honeymoon on one of the Fall River Line boats.
Yes, the Commonwealth, the biggest of the Fall River boats. And after they were dismantled, we went on our honeymoon on that boat. My husband got the flagstaff. It was in my backyard last year, and something happened and it rotted at the bottom, and we had to take it down. But he got the flagpole, so we had that right in our yard.
Did the captain of the boat give it to you because you'd honeymooned on it, or was he just interested in going after it?
My husband always knew somebody downtown, you know, and he just went down there when the boat was being there, and I don't know who he talked to, but he came home and said he'd gotten the flagpole. So, and it had his fireman friends probably had something to do with it, because they bring it over and put it up for him. So he was so very interested in the fire department.
Did you feel as if it was a disaster for Newport when that line collapsed?
Well, it did seem awful, because it seemed so easy to go to New York then, and then lots of times you'd go down in the evening to see the boat come in about 9 o'clock. People would go down to Long Wharf and watch the boat come in and watch them load fish on the boat. They always have loaded lots of fish from here. So it was such a direct line. Otherwise, you had to go to Wickford, take a boat up to Wickford, and then get a train to New York from there. So this way, if you went down at night, then you woke up in New York about 5 o'clock in the morning. So that was easy. Coming back, it wasn't quite as good, because the boat went straight to Fall River from here. It would stop here, but about 2 o'clock in the morning, nobody got off. Then it would go to Fall River, and then you had to come down from Fall River.
Was there ever any way to do sort of short runs, like you'd go out for dinner on the boat to Fall River or New Bedford and then come home in the car or something like that? Or did you really have to go all the way to New York or Boston on it?
Well, you could get off in Fall River, and it would stop here. Yes, you see, it would start at Fall River and stop here. Coming back, you could get on here and get off at Fall River. You could do that, I guess. I don't know.
But basically, it was.
Basically, you went
to New York.
It's a night thing to go to New York. That way, get people that had business in New York. You know, then they could take the boat, left New York around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so you could come back that way.
Were you surprised when it went out of business?
Well, yes, we were all sort of surprised. The whole Fall River line we thought would last forever, because it'd been around here so long.
Now, apparently it was a union dispute, over the AFL-CIO, who would control the maritime activity. So all the shops that worked here servicing those boats just suddenly found themselves out of business with no particular complaint. They weren't involved in it.
Yeah, but I imagine the fishing business felt it, because it got fish to New York very quickly, you see, always, because you get on the boat and then you watch them put all the fish on.
Was it particularly fresh? Could you buy fish individually before they loaded it?
No, I don't think that. Then it was usually consigned from some particular, shop.
There used to be, when my sister lived in Woods Hole, they would meet the fishing boats when they came in there. Yeah. And the local people would buy the fish before it was loaded on the boats.
Well, this Mr. J.T. O'Connell was a great one in Newport for long years, and he had fishing boats and things. And people used to go out with him sometime and come in with it. I know my husband and two of my two boys went out one time with him. They came back and they were so seasick they didn't care whether they had any fish or not.
Particularly not if they had fish, I guess. The odor of fish is not fun when you're seasick.
She said it was just awful.
Then the next item of interest, I guess, is the Depression. You were here through that, weren't you? Did you see it coming?
No, I don't know. About that time, I think I was so busy with the children being young and everything like that. And my husband took care of all the finances. I never was one that bothered with household things. So it didn't affect me originally so much. Of course, the store, Bill was concerned, I think, about, the way things would go that way, but we never seemed to be in any great difficulty.
Well, of course, the Navy payroll was constant, so there would have been an income.
Yes.
There would have been spending money
In Newport,
in
yes.
Newport right through.
Newport is, because there's always having the sailors around. That was the only thing Prohibition, I think, stopped, was so many drunken sailors.
Did you notice when the Navy left, was it more a question of when the Navy ships pulled out, or that Prohibition cleared up downtown, the drunken sailors Saturday night? Or was it a little
Well, it
of
certainly
both?
was quieter Saturday nights and things in town when the ships went up. But we still had sailors around because they still have boats here, but we didn't have the quantity we had before.
Basically, I have read that the change was the lowest rated crew people on the boats who left, and the general caliber of the Navy people who have stayed were the officers, the War College.
Yeah.
The payroll went up,
Yes,
although
and then I think
personnel went down.
A lot of Navy that was retired, they still live here, that retired and stayed here.
Why do you think Newport's such an attractive place for Navy people to retire?
Well, I don't know. I suppose they've been used. They've sometimes been here on duty before, and they're used to being near the ocean. And I don't know. Maybe it's people that hadn't particular set home or city that they wanted to go back to. This was always connected with the Navy and Army too, and I think there are a lot of friends here, and they kind of made a colony.
Must have been a particularly attractive place to have being assigned.
Yeah.
A good duty port, as
Yes,
the
that's
saying
I think
goes.
everybody liked being here, and so they stayed or came back.
What was the Civic Employment Association? Do you remember anything about that?
Not the Civic League, I remember.
Well, there was something apparently that helped during the Depression, and it's an organization that I have heard about, but I don't really know what it was.
I don't know, there was a Civic League that used to do a lot of work. I don't know, we talked about the Civic League. I never was sure, particularly what their duties were, but they apparently were interested in all kinds of the city's progress.
You didn't notice during the Depression any great change in the neighborhood, people who had to sell their houses here because they couldn't afford to keep them up anymore?
No, I think a lot of Newport people rented their houses in the summer, and I suppose people that hadn't done it before did it then more than usual. But a lot of people, I don't know where they go, little camps or something, and they rent their house. It astounded me. I never knew people would give up their homes like that and everything in it, sort of. But I knew people that, they had nice homes and all, and they rented them every summer.
And that helped them maintain them during the winter.
Yes. I don't know, a lot of people. I don't know whether General Ennis rented their house once in the summer. Seems to me, I can't remember. But it is surprising the people that did, that you didn't think would need to or want to.
I wonder if that was part of what caused the decline of the summer colony.
That probably been something to do with that.
Stock market losses, and they couldn't afford to maintain them
but
anymore.
as I say, these people that rented, but as far as I know, weren't affected by that. But they did it anyway. They seemed to like to get away in the summer and leave the house.
Maybe they were just a little nervous, and that was a way to get some money, and nobody knew how long it was going to last.
Yeah.
Did you notice any particular turning around when things got better in Newport, when the Depression worked its way through?
Well, I don't know. I think business may have been better, but as I say, I wasn't so civic-minded that I looked into things much. I helped with the community chest, I said, and Red Cross and all those things, but I didn't worry about the condition of the economy.
Many areas, I think, have a feeling that it was World War II that brought them out of the Depression.
Yes.
That business really didn't begin to
Yes,
get better
right.
until
Yes,
they
it was a
had
whole-
to gear up for the next World War.
Yes.
Which is too bad if you can't keep an economy healthy without having to have a war occasionally. Then you were here during World War II.
Yes.
Was your husband on active duty then?
He was in the first war, so he was a veteran, but he wasn't on it. He was running the store for his father, but then the whole business, he was older and he had a family. And
What about the boys? How old were they?
Well, my oldest son was about 18, and he was in MIT, and then he got us to go up and sign him to go in. He went in the Navy, because I thought he should go. He went in the Navy, and he was in only, he didn't see any active duty. He went to, I don't know where he was. He went to California to what is it, island there that the Navy trained them in. And he was in Texas in school. They went to school for, it becomes very handy now, electrician school for radar and all this electrical things. He got to like that, like his father did. So now when I want anything electrical, he knows about it.
He knows how to do it.
But he was only in about a year and a half, and he didn't see any active service. And the younger one was called in, and he was taken over to the Navy-based hospital for his thing, and they said he had high blood pressure, and they wouldn't take him. I've worried me ever since, but he says, the doctor says it's all right and everything. I think he's quiet, but he's rather nervous type. And I think when all this examination, he probably went up, but he said they kept him over there an hour, made him lie down, and then they took it again. He called me up and says, Mama, they won't take me.
Was he very disappointed?
I don't know. I don't think he was too disappointed.
With the military tradition in the family, he didn't feel as if he...
about that because Bill went in the Navy anyway. And Bill's family, while he was in the Navy in the first war, I mean, it wasn't a family thing they cared about, but just because I was the one with the Army.
That was your connection. Do you think that as Newport became built up with its defenses, did this get people nervous and worried, or did it make them feel reassured? All the coastline defenses, did it make people worried that a submarine might come through?
I think they were sort of. We had blackouts, I mean, we couldn't turn lights on. I still got blackout shade in my room upstairs, that we pulled down at night and all that. And I think they were, because being a Navy base, if they were more apt to hit here than they would some other place if they came over. And there was talk one time of a submarine, German submarine off the shore and all this business. And they sunk somebody out there, I don't know. But we were all active in some side of a help, like Red Cross help and things like that.
Air raid wardens and all that
we had
sort of
those
thing.
up and down the street and all like that.
Was there an anti-aircraft gun or emplacement down here on Eustis Avenue?
Yeah, way down there. There were some. They're still there now, I think, the placements there. I never went over and examined them, but where all the houses are down there now, they're all kind of things that were there. But they didn't activate Fort Adams at all. My father always used to say they never could hit anything but Jamestown anyway, where the guns were placed. But they had training things over there. Some of the Navy had a place for sailors over there.
What about the torpedo station?
That was, of course, very active. That was. It looks funny to see the picture. Think that's all gone because they had a ferry that came across. You know, there was no causeway then. They had to come over in a little boat. All the people every afternoon about 4 o'clock, by the Thames Street was full of men going over to the torpedo station, and they came back different shifts at night and all. They were very busy. It was awful to go down Thames Street in the afternoon. That hour, you would almost get knocked down. People running for these men, and they're standing in doorways waiting for their boat to go to the torpedo station. And it was going full tilt. I knew a man who lived near us that worked there, and one time we went over. I took the children over. He showed us around a lot over there and showed us what they were doing.
So they let people go over and
well,
look.
Perhaps that was more towards the end of the war, because they still had it for a long while until the redevelopment got a hold of it. My poor son, he was always dashing back and forth in the boat in the cold winter and the rain and everything, trying to sell Goat Island to different, to get developments. He had a terrible time getting rid of Goat Island. And then they took everything off that. There used to be a row of very nice houses there that the Marines had over there. In front, way down below where all the making of the guns, the torpedoes were. Because I know the time when I was way back first in high school, we knew children that lived over there, and they used to come over in the boat. Those houses were nice, and they took them all down. I said, if they wanted houses, why didn't they keep some of them?
I wondered why there's so much tearing down.
Terrible. Everything went down. I mean, I hated the Thames Street sometimes, some of it. I'm glad my husband never saw the store go. He said he'd feel badly if when he died, they were talking about it. And, but of course things improved. All those old buildings and things improved. But there's some good buildings that they took down. They'd have great arguments about it, and then they'd take it down.
I think Americans generally are beginning to appreciate their heritage a little bit more. You go to Europe, and people point with pride, this building which is 500 years old. And for a while, if anything was 35 years old over here, it was, tear it down.
They take it down. They build something else that's cheaper
than remodeling and restoring.
Of course, some things were good. Long Wharf in the old days was nothing but liquor joints and things like that. It was a good thing to get rid of.
Some cleaning up sometimes is helpful.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
The houses on Goat Island, you say they all were torn down. So when the hurricane hit in 1938, what was over there? Anything? Or was it sort of in between?
Yeah, sort of in between.
Years?
I don't remember. I was so busy around here. I don't remember what happened over there, Goat Island. Was that just before? That was certainly before they tore down all the things. So they must have been over there. Then I don't know how they were injured, because they seemed to be still there when they tore them down for redevelopment.
Now, of course, everybody'd like to get a finger in the pie over there. They'd like to build gambling casinos and all sorts of things.
That's terrible. Oh, yes, we fought against that.
I hope we've won that battle permanently.
I certainly hope so. We got rid of Donnelly. It ruined him. See, he was for it. Because my son was the head of a committee that's all against it.
Well, I don't think we need it.
No, they fought they fought about the highlight thing out there, but that hasn't turned out too bad. That's, they always said that had gambling too, but it seems to be contained in one place. It doesn't seem to affect things too much.
Were you here during all that dispute of
Oh,
that?
yes.
That was before we moved. We didn't know anything about the
Oh, yeah.
highlight.
Yeah.
But apparently feelings ran pretty strong about that too.
Yes, there was quite a lot of talk about that, but when they finally got it, I don't know how they got it, but it hasn't seemed to hurt things too much. But that's different from the gambling casinos and things, which I certainly hope they never have.
There just doesn't seem to be any way to control that
No,
crime.
just keep them out of the place. That's the thing to do.
Where were you when the hurricane struck? Actually, right here.
My daughter was in high school, and my two boys were in this Miss Collins School on Rhode Island Avenue. And when it was, my husband was another thing, he loved weather things. He was always watching the weather, and he saw this low pressure coming. So he went over to Miss Collins School and said, dismiss the school, it's going to be a terrible storm. And so she was all the jittery. She's a very funny little woman. And she was all excited, and she had to get Patty Vanderbilt out of there and everything. And they closed the school, and he brought the boys home. But my girl was in high school, and where was she? Nobody knew. It was time to come home. So she, just when the thing started, she comes walking down K Street, and the trees were falling down, and everything seemed to bother her at all. She got home without any trouble. Scared us to death. We had 2 trees in front here, 2 big willow trees. And I was standing here, and I look up, and the willow tree's going that way. And then I go in the other room, and the willow tree's going that way. And then there's another big tree was going that way, and I thought it was going to smash the porch, but it went against the porch, but it didn't break the glass.
So it didn't actually do any damage to the house?
No, to the house, no. Down the town, of course, the store was flooded. I was here, he was down there, taking things out and putting things up because the whole store was flooded. It came up the wharf there. You see, the boats came up to their back door, and they had a terrible time. He was down there all night, I guess, and everything, taking care of things. And
so that's all filled-in land then, behind the store, between
Yes.
the store and where the water is now.
yes,
And that was still water at the time of the hurricane. So
yes,
it just
the
came
water
right in.
Came right up. You see,
Uninvited.
the wharf there was high, the Long Wharf, and it just came up from Long Wharf, and all those stores they were all flooded.
You were lucky, though, that he did have a barometer and could see that this was coming. Apparently, at that time, they didn't have, national weather services.
No,
And part of
I
the
say,
problem...
nobody ever mentioned hurricane in Newport before. We had storms in the fall and all, and quite bad storms, but hurricane, we thought that's down in Florida. We never thought about it till then. And after that, we got very conscious of it. Because also over at the beach, we go to Hazard's Beach, and we had rowboat over there, and that, of course, went. And all the bathhouses went. Everything we had in them was gone. And we didn't expect it, so we hadn't taken things home. And, the Lily Pond there, the next day, everybody was going across Lily Pond, hunting for things, see if they could find things. And I had painted our bathhouse a light green, so I was looking for light green wood. And I found a couple of bathing suits, but then other people would go and find beach chairs and things with names on them. They'd steal them, you see. So we lost everything down there, of course, that was in the house.
That was the area, I guess, where most of the fatalities were. People
Yes.
trying to get home across to Middletown, getting through there. The water came up over there, I guess completely over the causeway, didn't it?
Yes.
Could you see it from here, out these back windows, or were there still houses built there by then?
There were quite a lot of the houses built, but we couldn't really see. I think if we went after the thing, we went to the corner, you could see how high it came up on Eustis Avenue. But the next morning was a beautiful morning, and everybody went out. Nobody could move because of the trees were in front of the driveways and everything. And I remember my daughter, high school. They're so fussy, but she was in some striped pajamas walking down the middle of Gibbs Avenue. Everybody was coming out of the house because, no cars could get by or anything, and they were looking to see what was happening. It was quite an experience. When the others came, we kind of got used to hurricanes, and if they mentioned hurricanes, we batted up more.
Did you really have that reaction that you believed in a hurricane then? I think that people now have a feeling, oh, well, it can't happen. You hear people are just getting too excited and they don't pay any attention.
No, I think we realize, because I say my husband was very conscious of weather, we realized, to watch for them more, because we never realized what was going to come before. And my husband said that barometer's down, something awful is going to happen. We didn't mention the word hurricane until afterward.
How did you feel about the way the city rebuilt itself afterwards? Do you think they did an efficient job cleaning up the mess?
I think they did. It seemed to me that things were running quite soon. Things.
Of course, power lines were down and all the trees down. That
we
kind
never
of
lost
thing.
the telephone. My mother lived in 2 houses up here at that time, and I could talk to her all the time. We never lost the telephone.
And I guess the telephone wires were overhead too. They hadn't put them underground at all. That was lucky.
Yeah.
Then you were talking about my favorite anecdote that you told before with moving the fire engines with the jazz festival. How did you like the jazz festival? Did you go to the concerts?
No, I wasn't. I was horrified in Newport. I didn't know jazz didn't seem to be suited to Newport. It seemed to be, Newport was more, I don't know, sedate, as it were, or something. To have something like that, it didn't seem to be suitable. But then everybody got excited. I suppose the young people went, but I wasn't interested in that, and I wasn't interested in jazz or anything. We just sit out on the steps here and watch the cars go by when they had it at Freebody Pond.
Because that would have been more this neighborhood, really, at Freebody, than when they had it down at Cardine's field. I wonder why they started to have them in Newport.
I don't know. Who was it that some person there was, maybe someone from down the avenue that got interested in it and started it. I can't think of the name. I'm awful on names. But no doubt there's a record somewhere, whoever started the gas. Oh dear,
I think it was the Laurillards.
Oh, Laurillards. I think they were started. The Laurillards. I don't know why when they brought all these crazy people. I don't know. But there was all kind of, it was terrible to go out. We took a ride out there and got over to the boulevard up that street. You couldn't budge. It was awful. It was scary. The people come up to the window and throw things in the window of the car. It was awful.
Where did all these people stay overnight? All these extra hordes?
Heaven knows,
sleep
down
on
the beach and the parks and things and people's yards, and it was kind of, some people had, awful people coming in the yards.
Did they come into did you have that kind of problem
No,
along
we didn't.
here?
Most of the cars went by here.
Quite
The
that
people
close.
that walking people, we didn't have too much of it, few, but they were just people that were going to the thing. But I think of all the mess over there, a lot of them went to the beaches, I think, at night. So, I don't know what they did. They didn't have money, most of them. Terrible. And as I said, along K Street and there, what with the jam of cars and people walking, couldn't get through. We just stayed home.
I wonder what